With an Ahsoka book being released on the 11th of October of this year, some fans may be asking themselves, who is this Ahsoka Tano? Please be warned that there may be spoilers throughout this video for Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels. Ahsoka Tano was born around 36 years before the Battle of Yavin, or better known as the end battle of Star Wars Episode 4. She's a female Togrutan from the planet of Shili, and originally found by Jedi Master Plo Koon and taken to Coruscant for Jedi training. She was first seen in Star Wars The Clone Wars 2008 movie, and she was around 14 years old at this point, and although that movie was not greatly received by Star Wars fans, it did introduce probably one of the most successful animated characters of all time in Star Wars, and probably one of the most interesting characters to come out of Star Wars in many, many years. Ahsoka became the apprentice to Anakin Skywalker, and straight away we know in Star Wars Episode 3, after the Clone Wars, that he was still not a Jedi Master, and you become a Jedi Master by training a Jedi apprentice to the level of Jedi Knight, so we instantly knew that this wasn't going to be a completely happy ending to this story, because clearly Ahsoka did not ascend to the rank of Jedi Knight. Although apprenticed to Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka took many mentors in life, including Obi-Wan Kenobi, Captain Rex, and even Yoda. And an interesting fact is that Obi-Wan Kenobi was originally going to be training Ahsoka Tano himself, but the writers thought that it would be more interesting and a better development for Anakin Skywalker to train her, and eventually Ahsoka becomes a nice mix of Anakin's brashness but Obi-Wan Kenobi's patience. Ahsoka went on many adventures throughout the entire Clone Wars series, and actually ended up dying on the planet of Mortis, but she was later resurrected by Daughter, who was a Force wielder who existed on the planet of Mortis, and carried on her adventures with Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Captain Rex, and the 501st Legion. There's a lot of character progression for Ahsoka throughout the Clone Wars TV series, originally being very enthusiastic to the point of arrogant and kind of a brat. She eventually grows up to be a very mature young woman who almost outgrows Anakin Skywalker in a way, and in some ways even surpasses him, especially in her ability to keep herself calm and focused. At the end of Season 5 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, Ahsoka is framed for the bombing of a Jedi Temple hangar and subsequent murders that happened after that, and with the failing of the Jedi Council to support her, Ahsoka ultimately felt betrayed, even though she was eventually found innocent, but only because of Anakin Skywalker's persistence in finding the real culprit. After this, she decided to leave the Jedi Order altogether and go off on her own, and ultimately leave her master. This was a very important moment in Star Wars, actually, and in Anakin's life, as this assisted his descent into the dark side, as this kind of shook his foundations in the Jedi, which would later be further shaken and eventually destroyed by Chancellor Palpatine, aka Darth Sidious. The time between the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels is not really discussed in any of the TV series, but this is what will be discussed in the book that is coming out very, very soon. But we don't see Ahsoka again until Star Wars Rebels, where initially she appears under a pseudonym of Fulcrum. At the end of Star Wars Rebels Season 1, eventually Ahsoka reveals herself, and for me this was actually quite a surprise, because I actually thought this was going to be Leia, and it ended up being Ahsoka, which I was very happy about, and she assists our Rebel friends all the way through Season 2 until at the end, where they visit Malachor, and she has a fight with Darth Vader, a very intense, emotional battle, but unfortunately she fails to leave Malachor whilst fighting Darth Vader, and ultimately sacrifices herself to allow her friends to be able to leave, and the characters now presume Ahsoka to be dead, although there was a short scene at the end where you saw her walking back into the old Sith temple. Although some people believe that this is just her ghost walking into the dark, a sort of symbolism to say that she has died, many people believe that she actually is still alive, living on Malachor, which is likely the case for this character. Ahsoka is one of the only animated characters I can see ever even making a cameo in a live-action movie, because she is that loved by many, many of the fans. And personally, I would be really happy to even just see her as a cameo in one of the anthology series, in one of the Star Wars story films. Interestingly, Ahsoka does mention the last time that she saw her master that he was rushing off to save the Chancellor, which I presume means the start of Star Wars Episode 3, when he's going off to save Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, and ultimately he kills Count Dooku in the process. This has implications that Ahsoka has either been keeping an eye on her master or has actually contacted him, but in Star Wars Rebels there is a scene where she sees Anakin as Darth Vader, where he screams at her, "Why did you leave me?" and so on and so forth, which makes me think that she hasn't actually met up with him face to face, but maybe she's been keeping an eye on him. Amazingly, the scenes between Ahsoka and Anakin, especially at the end of Season 5 of The Clone Wars, and especially her battle at the end of Season 2 with Darth Vader, where she damages his mask and you can see Anakin underneath and actually partially hear his actual voice, are extremely emotional, and way more emotional than any of the prequels. They are way more Star Wars than any of the prequels, and I would say that if you haven't watched either Rebels or the Clone Wars, I would say go back and watch them, because they get a lot of stuff right that the films got really wrong, and the characterization of Anakin is much better, Darth Vader is much more menacing, and Ahsoka is a much more relatable character than anyone in the prequel series of films. And I would say Dave Filoni, who heads up both of the animated series, absolutely nails what makes Star Wars such a great saga. So my recommendation is to go back and watch them. I hope now you have some more understanding of who Ahsoka Tano is, and I hope that if you do go back, you learn to love her as much as I do. Thank you for listening, and if you do buy the book, please do tell me what you thought of it. I will be buying it and I'll be reading it straight away because I'm super interested in that book. Please leave a like if you like this video, and do subscribe if you want to hear more. I do have a list in front of me of all the videos that I want to bring out very, very soon, and most of them are on some of the Star Wars characters that we will be seeing or may be seeing in the future. Thank you very much for watching.